Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is Verman Clash right here, and tonight I'm going to talk about a topic that nearly everybody talks about and everybody thinks about, and that's the past. And what is the past? Basically, the past is talking about previous events that happened a long time ago or a brief moment ago, like something that just happened like a minute ago. That's considered to be the past, even though it didn't feel that long. That's how time typically is. It feels as if something passed so fast that you didn't feel it, or it just went by so quick that you just feel like, wait a minute, man, did I really just turn, you know, did I really just turn this age? Because I remember the last time I was 15, 16 years old. And how does this tie in with the past and, all that stuff, man? And, when it comes right down to the past, people tend to have more of like a fonder memories of it. And it's kind of funny because some people would rather forget it because they had like a traumatic experience with it. And some people would rather relive it because they felt as if, those were their glory days and those were the days that they felt like, yeah, they were wanted, they were more important. And, they didn't have kids, they didn't have, financial troubles, they were still living with their parents rent free, all that crap, man. But, why is living in the past, you know, sometimes a good thing and sometimes a bad thing? The reason why living in the past is good is because it reminds you that, hey, look, even though, time is gone, you may not live those years, but greater times are going to be ahead. Greater times are going to come. And the past reminding you of the lessons that you did not learn before and why you must appreciate them now. See, the past is meant to teach you what not to do, but teach you how to be. It's kind of like it's an oxymoron, but at the same time, it makes a lot of sense. Sometimes you just don't think about it, and then you just do it, and you just be like, "Wait, where did I get that from?" And then you feel as if like, "Wait a minute, I didn't do that before. Why did I start now?" And then it just feels like then it becomes second nature to you. And I talk about the past and how the way people use it to escape. And that's the main thing, and that's the thing that really is scary. Because people use the past to escape the now, the responsibility, to do something that can actually help people, to do something that will actually, benefit people. Because, people don't want to do things simply because because it takes responsibility. They feel as if, oh, I got all these other burdens, I got bills to pay, I got I got all this other stuff to pay, I have other things to do. Yes, and then it feels as if like, wait a minute, what am I doing with my life? Why do I feel as if like I'm being burdened? I need to think about the good old days. Drinking beer, smoking weed, having fun with your friends, and all that crap. What does that exactly do with your life? And how does reliving the past help you learn and prepare for today? Just like what Malcolm X once said, and I have this on my lock screen, the future belongs to those who prepare it for today. And you may never know, today will eventually become the past. And you think, and then eventually, when you're ahead in the future, you just say, damn, I really waste my fucking time just doing nothing. And it's cool to reminisce about, oh, there were some positives in the past. I was young, I had like an innocent perspective on things. I was taught life lessons, my family was still together. And, overall, it was a cheery time. And, I was, able to get my groove on. I'm able to look at things and just say, yeah, this is the life. Sorry if I'm yawning so much. But then again, what's the point? What's the point of reminiscing about the past? What's the point of reminiscing about what happened back then. What's the point of reminiscing about, oh yeah, this is what we do. This is how the way we do things. Yeah, back then things were much better than now. No, the hell it's not. Because if things were so much better back then, that means now it wouldn't be like this. I hate it when adults say, like, back then we were so disciplined. Back then we had our asses beat if we would do something what you were doing. Well, let me tell you something. If that was the case, then how come you're doing the stuff that you're doing now, and how come we're living in such a bad future? And you want to know the real funny part is? Half of the fucking adults, which I look at, and they talking about, oh, back then things were better. Back then things were this. Let me tell you something. Things did not change. It's just the fact that you want to escape. You want to live, during your glory days. You want to live responsibility free. Let me tell you something. On Earth, you don't live responsible. You don't live responsibility free. You have a responsibility whether you like it or not. And it's rather sad when I see adults and they say, "Oh, life is this, life is tough." They complain like little cowards, man. And they're supposed to teach us, the youth. In fact, we respect our elders more than we respect those that are like 10, 20, 30 years older than us. We respect people who are like 40, 50, and 60 years older than us because we know for a fact they lived that type of era. They lived through, they lived through Jim Crow. They lived through overt racism. They lived through covert racism. They lived through that. They had to, go through all that. They can actually tell you how times changed, literally right in front of your face. And we would have more respect for the elders than we do for the adults because the adults don't respect the elders, and then that disrespect transferred on to them because they're going to become the new elders. And how ironic that when you look at adults, sometimes you just look at them and say, man, I just hope I don't grow up to be you sad fuckers. And I'm just going to be straight up honest. I know I'm cursing a lot in this video, but it's something that's been bothering me for quite some time, about the past and how the way people talk about the past as if it's great. See, when it comes right down to, looking at history, mystery, looking at, the origin of man, there's a difference between origin and past. See, look, in my view, when you talk about origin, you're talking about like the whole people, you're talking about more like the biological sense. But when you talk about the past, you're talking about something more personal. You're talking about something that you experienced for yourself, something that you can remember, not something that can be traced back in your DNA, but something that you say, this is what I experienced. And some people would rather fabricate the past because they can't handle, now. They can't handle the future, and they're definitely ashamed of themselves. And you want to know what the real sad part is? It's the fact that they want to talk about, oh, the past was great. If it was so great, then how the hell we got so screwed up now? If the past was so beautiful and it was so, magnificent, and you were so disciplined on so many levels, then answer me this. How come, adults are bickering like little babies, like little kids, man? That's not the past teaching you how to act. That's not the past teaching you how to be. That's just your own insecurities talking. And then people, talking about how the way things were better back then. I remember I felt trapped to this, and then I realized, like, hey, you know what? Nowadays it's not so bad. But it's just that, people don't realize it. It's just that, people are scared. They want to escape. They want to live life, but they don't want the burden. When it comes to living life, you gotta have a burden. When it comes to living, some things die. But let me tell you something. When you live, you die. That there's no ifs, ands, and ups about it. Some people commit abortions, which personally for me is wrong. Some of you may say, like, that's a woman's body motion. That's what women do with their bodies. I'm like, well, you're right. But let me tell you something. If I have the right to live, and you gave somebody else who also had the right to live, and you killed them prematurely, then What's that telling me? That you actually condone murder. And some of you may not agree with my viewpoints. And how does this tie in with the past? I mean, you think life is a mistake? Life is not a mistake. Life is beautiful. Of course, life is not going to be perfect. But that's the thing about beauty. It's never perfect. The past is never perfect, but it will definitely fortify you for the present, thus you can prepare for the future. And just like what Malcolm X once said, the future belongs to those who prepare for it for today. And if you don't prepare for it, then what are you going to succeed? What are you going to succeed in? Sure, I'm not going to be agreed with. And back then, I would actually be a little bit like, wait, what do you mean by that? Because, people are sarcastic. They don't want to say it. They don't want to say it to people's face because they believe, oh, I'm being nice. So I'm not going to say what I want to say. See, let me tell you something. When I look at, the past and how the way people try to use euphemisms to make me feel better, in fact, I feel even worse. Because you know why? What's the point of using euphemisms just so you can make yourself look better? So you can make yourself feel better? It doesn't work. Because you know why? Simple. You're lying. Just make it plain, just say it out. And it's funny because when you betray somebody with a lie, you essentially look at them and say, what's the point of believing in you if you're just going to sugarcoat things? And I'm glad, like, my art teacher on Saturdays didn't sugarcoat things. He told me straight out, like, what I'm doing wrong. And that's good. I'm glad that one of my classmates that I graduated with told me that, drawing Sonic characters is a bit childish. Because he helped me develop my own style. And that's good. I'm glad that, this guy who I look at and just be like, yeah, you may draw cars better than me. He draws some damn good cars, I ain't gonna lie. But he laughed at my artwork, throw a little snigger here and there. He couldn't just say it outright like, hey, look, this is what you need to work on. But I told him outright, like, man, I remember sometimes I would just draw and you would look over here, just laugh and all that crap, having like a bit of a high and mighty disposition. And now he's, experiencing full pressure. Ain't that some shit? And then now looking at him, I'm just be like, you know what, man, fuck it. I told him straight up. Like, what he did made me angry, but at the same time, it helped me push forward. And he said, that's good. And, that made me realize something else too. That's cool. Sometimes you remember things, but then you try to remember the good and bad people, but then you try to remember the bad and good people. And, good people, they do not necessarily try to appear all friendly and shit. And I learned that the hard way. And it's funny too because everybody's trying to say like, oh, if you're friendly, that means you're up to something. Well, let me tell you something, man. And I look at there's, like I said before, there's a difference between history when it's talking about origin, and it's talking about what happened to people as a whole, but the past is more personal. When I look at my history, and I look at how the way people came in with Bibles, they came in with friendly intent, and then we closed our eyes, they had the land, we had the Bibles. That's typically how some people act nowadays. They try to use the past, they try to make themselves look all friendly and all that shit. Or they try to hide their insecurities and all that shit. But what does it do? It doesn't do anything except make you look more vulnerable. And as you look more vulnerable, it doesn't help. Because you want to know why? Because you end up destroying yourself. Destroying, whatever environment you're in with your negativity. And what I learned from the past is the fact that it's good to be cheered on sometimes, but don't let that get to your head. It's an ego booster, not a confidence booster. Because when it comes right down to confidence, you boost yourself. When it comes right down to ego, you try to boost yourself in a negative way. See, confidence is positive, ego is negative. That's the thing. But then, the past. The past is something great, but if you indulge yourself in it too much, you become nostalgia blind. And when people are nostalgia blind, like with Gen 1ers, and Pokemon, they say, oh, Gen 1 was definitely the best. But let me tell you something, just like Super Smash Brothers. I played the first Super Smash Brothers, man. It was pretty great and all that stuff. But then I played the later titles, it got progressively better. It's good to take steps from what you did back then. Sure, back then was a bit simpler. Sure, back then was a bit, a bit of a more innocent light. Sure, back then you had more prime, you had less responsibility. But here's the beautiful thing about growing up. You actually find more creative ways to work. You find more creative ways to hang out with people. You manage, you grow, you develop. You actually take time to look at things and just say, hey, this is what I have to do to grow up. And about my bit about how the way if you close your like back then, my people had the land, and the enemy had the Bibles. They told us pray on our knees, pray. They gave us the Bibles and then they had our land. That's basically like the past. The past is your land, but the ego is the Bible, and the proverbial Bible. And once that thing called ego clouds your mind, you will lose your land, meaning your resources, meaning yourself. But people are too nostalgia blind about facts. They're too nostalgia blind about what does it mean to truly live, all because they want to be free. Because let me tell you this, freedom and escapism are two entirely separate things. They're not the same thing. So let's get that out of the way. The past requires you to have freedom and to let go and to move on. And too many adults are hanging on to excess baggage that they should let go when they were goddamn 16. And it's just real pitiful when they pass on that baggage onto their children. The past is beautiful, like I said before, but it's also a burden. Nearly everything is a double-edged sword. But at the same time, let the lessons that the past gave you teach you. Don't let it be a way to say, hey, look, you were greater back then. Why don't you go back to what you were doing back then and then lose the lessons that you learned now, so you can repeat the lessons that you already learned back then? It's a waste of time. And the past, is, like I said, is a great teacher. Is cruel. Time is a cruel teacher, but an effective one either. An effective one too. And with that, YouTube, the past is a double-edged sword. And I say, this is Broman Flash, as I usually say. Out one, at one. And if you like what I say, you can like, share it, subscribe, you can comment, you can do what you like. Or if you don't agree with me, that's cool. You can also comment too. Just be rational with it. Alright? Later.